Hello, and thank you for joining us for our March 1st Friday session. It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker today, Dr. Jody Gangloff-Kaufman. Jody is an associate director and the coordinator of the Community IPM program at New York State IPM. And during Jody's career, she has worked extensively with the pest management industry and the public. So today she'll be bridging that knowledge to talk about considerations for hiring a pest professional. Thank you, Jody.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. Yes, I'm going to talk about what to look for when hiring a pest management professional and things to watch out for. So we'll just dive right in. I guess first of all, you might ask yourself, when would you call a pest management professional? Not everyone does. Not everyone has ever called one and hired one. So here are some considerations of when you might really want to call. If you find one or two, one or three cockroaches or bed bugs or even carpenter ants, if you find a couple of fleas, you find some evidence of termites, or if you find rats and mice, these are situations where absolutely you're going to need the help of a pest management professional. Um, Especially like if you see carpenter ants, you could have a carpenter ant colony that's set up shop in your house or your building. And if you see fleas, you're going to have an outbreak. It's already too late. So these are situations where you definitely call a professional. But if you have like just a constant issue with smaller household ants that won't go away, wood boring beetles, which can be just, here and there, little sawdust here and there that really should be taken care of by a pest management pro. If you have carpenter bees that are slowly destroying some outdoor wooden structures or anything, or parts of your house, and if you see drain or phorid flies, those are issues you want to have checked out. So these are other situations where if you saw one carpenter bee, you're not going to call, but if you see more than one or some damage, you really should call, right? If you have something that is a threat to human health, if you have a yellow jacket or even a honeybee nest in a wall, in the eaves, in the attic, or in an area of human activity like a doorway, you're definitely going to want a professional to help take care of this. And keep in mind that honeybees, although there are beloved pollinators, that feral honeybee colonies can be dangerous and they are not protected. So you can call a beekeeper to get one, or you can call an exterminator. It's not illegal to kill honeybees. If you see wildlife nesting indoors in your attic, in your eaves, in your chimney, anywhere like that, or displaying odd behaviors outside, that is an instance to call a pest management professional. There have been many cases of distemper in New York in the past few years, and so raccoons do turn up sick, and there's really no treating them. So you would call a pest pro if you have an animal indoors or if you have one displaying weird behavior. And when shouldn't you call a pest management pro? There is no need to call if your kid comes home with head lice. You're not going to be treating your home if your kid has head lice. You're only going to be treating people's heads, the hair, and maybe putting things in the laundry. If you have spiders, everybody gets really afraid of spiders, but usually they're just an accidental visitor. And also earwigs and millipedes and other just accidentals. These are situations where they're not going to infest your home. You don't need to call a pro. You can handle this by cleaning or even with sticky traps. So how do you find a reliable company? Most people will turn to their friends and family for recommendations and, asking, did you like this company? Was it a reasonable cost? I can't think of anyone I know who's hired a pest pro, so that wouldn't be an option for me and maybe for many others. So I'd probably start with a search online. So Google searches or Yelp, Angie, and Trustpilot, which list contractors. They do some vetting of contractors sometimes, but all of these services will have, a place for reviews. And when you're looking online and looking at those reviews, keep in mind it's better to look at the ratio of good to bad reviews and look in the comments for commonalities of good traits, like their customer service was amazing, they did a great job, or red flags, they never returned my calls, they didn't do much, that kind of thing. And because all companies out there who do any contracting have some probably have some negative reviews. So keep that in mind. You can go to the National Pest Management Association website, which is right there, pestworld.org. They have a searchable database of the companies that belong to that organization. The Better Business Bureau can help you weed out companies as well. And I put the yellow pages in here, not because I recommend it. The yellow pages is kind of stagnant. It's still there. We still have it, but it's stagnant. It doesn't give you any other information about a company, but you may find some names in the yellow pages. And the last thing, can I call my local cooperative extension office for recommendations? And unfortunately, the answer is no. Extension agents are expected to be unbiased, and in that we can't really recommend companies, one company over another or anything. So you're better off doing your search, probably online. And keep in mind that pest management professionals are not evenly distributed in places like upstate New York, where populated areas like the cities and the suburbs will have more companies for hire than rural areas, which means more choices, more competition. So what I would say is don't exclude those city-based companies. Look at those companies and see what their areas of service are, because many of them extend into more rural areas and will come, a distance to come and service you. But most importantly, get multiple quotes. Do some real comparison shopping when you're looking for a pest management pro, because you want to have the best service. Um, Keep in mind, all pest management professionals must be licensed. The individuals carry an applicator's license, which certifies that they've been through training and testing, and their knowledge base is, good enough to do pest control. The companies themselves are registered as pesticide businesses by the DEC, and all of this information can be verified at the DEC website. There are databases that you can search. And also, companies are required to carry liability insurance, which is pretty universal for contractors. You want to make sure that's true for your company. Does the company you're looking at have an affiliation with the National Pest Management Association? This is the organization that holds conferences every year, national and regional. And this is a place where these applicators get their recertification training credits. There's also a statewide, most states have a statewide pest management association, and that is another source of education and training. So it's good to see companies that are affiliated here, and even better to see companies that have some of their members as leaders in these organizations. And then there's the Entomological Society of America, which really is the organization that joins all entomologists, not just pest control, but they do have some training certifications, a board certified entomologist and an associate certified, which means they've had some credential from a professional organization that they know what they're talking about and they've been trained. And if you see a company that on their website they say we have a board certified entomologist on staff, you want to choose a company like that. That is a good sign. Does the company website mention integrated pest management? This is what we do and what we promote. And we have for a long time promoted the use of IPM in pest control. So IPM really means offering more than just pesticide application. It could mean a focus on trapping pests where that's appropriate. So roaches and mice and things can be trapped. If the technician can see, can recognize, point out, and even potentially repair pest entry points, or in other words, performing pest exclusion, that's a really good trait to have, a characteristic for a company. Do they make recommendations for improving the landscape or improving sanitation? They should be aware of these things that contribute to pest issues and be able to tell you how to modify your environment to prevent pests. And do they ever use biocontrol options? There are not many, but there are a few that require extra training and a little bravery. But these biocontrol options, one in particular for bed bugs, are a really good option. And it shows that a company is interested in newer things, right? So if you see any of these things, these are good traits to have. They answer your questions. That's an important one. Does this company's representative, either the salesperson or the technician, come to you with truthful and complete answers to your questions? If they do, that's great. If they don't, that's a red flag. They should be taking your concerns seriously. If you have concerns about pesticide use or the pests themselves, They should take you seriously. They never say things like, "Don't worry, this is safe." The cavalier attitude, not a good thing. And they should be honest about the time it takes to eliminate a pest population, because it takes time. Do they offer a written contract? That's an important one. This would describe the type of service that they're going to offer and includes maybe an IPM definition or the procedure that they will use to do whatever pest control. They might list the conditions for pesticide use. There should be dates for the pesticide applications, the types of pesticide products to be used, and the amounts. And then, of course, the cost of service. That should be agreed upon before you start. Do they provide pesticide labels to their customers? This is kind of a requirement. The federal pesticide label is the law, and that means that what it says on the label, including the registration number, active ingredients, the safety precautions, and the product use instructions, all of those things are legal and important and written on the label. So the specific pest and location should also be on the label. So if pest control company is going to come in and use this cockroach bait gel, does it have, well, it has cockroaches on it. Does it have my kitchen? Does it have a kitchen as a location where pesticides can be used, where this one can be used? So that is something to look for. The instructions on the label should be followed correctly, right? And they should be able to leave a copy of this pesticide label with you just for your own precautions. Each service or each visit should include an inspection just to see what's going on. If you have an ongoing problem that they're there to solve, they should be doing monitoring, which means collecting information when no one's looking. So documenting what's happening when no one's there. And they should be keeping records. This is one of the hallmarks of IPM, is do they really keep records of what they found, how many, not just pesticide use, but the type of pests found and where and when and what actions were taken. A good company provides follow-up. Follow-up visits are needed when we have active pest issues to do another inspection, to check those monitors and to see where the population is going. Second treatments are also quite common, especially when we're using baits to combat things like roaches and ants and rodents. You're going to have to retreat with a bait. And then some pests just require a second treatment overall, like a bed bug, because the eggs are protected from pesticide toxins, and they'll hatch eventually. And then the new hatchlings have to be treated. So a good company provides that follow-up visit and doesn't promise to do everything in one visit. Now, keep in mind, nearly all pest issues are solvable. I say nearly all because I have seen recently some that are really, really difficult, but they were never in someone's home. You don't have to live with pests. In other words, if your pest management professional is just treating the problem but never solving the problem, you need a new pest management professional. And so with that, we'll talk about some red flags to watch for. The most important one I can find, or I can think of, is the door-to-door high pressure sales. Every spring, a company comes to my door, some representative, and they sell aggressively a year-long contract for pests without looking at my home, without discussing anything about pests. They're just trying to get you to spend the money. And according to the reviews, they don't offer very good service. They're not even a company based in New York. So watch out for those door-to-door high-pressure sales. Don't fall for it. You don't need a year-long contract with a company to get pest control. If there's no contract outlining the services that are agreed upon, that's kind of a red flag. No one should be coming in and treating and leaving without a written contract. Do they offer services without an inspection? That's kind of a red flag. You want to know what's going on. You want to know the extent of the problem. Do they ask for payment for work upfront, work yet to be done? That's a red flag. Don't do that. They should be paid once the work is finished. Do they make promises that the pests will be eliminated in one visit? That's not a good thing. That's, inaccurate. So avoid that. If you see technicians who are not wearing safety gear, that's kind of a red flag. Safety is very important in pest control. And if the website or the phone numbers don't work, if they're wonky, that can be a sketchy thing. Don't fall for companies like that. And if they, I haven't encountered this really, but if they offer a homemade or a special formulation of their very own, that's a red flag because we know that's not legal, right? So these are things to watch for. They're not the only things, but things I could come up with. But on the other hand, we have to be good customers. When you have someone coming into your home to deal with a pest problem, this is a partnership between you and that company or that technician. And, we play a role in our own pest control. So understand it's a partnership, be available for scheduled visits. You wouldn't believe how often that happens, or people aren't here when they arrive. And anyone who's in the service industry, they want to offer you the narrowest window of time when they can be there, but things happen, traffic happens. So be available for scheduled visits. Secure pets away from the service area, please. We know your dog is friendly, but not every technician wants to encounter your dog. So keep your dogs, your cats, your birds, whatever, away from the service area until the technician is gone. And don't expect a magic wand. Pest control takes time. Keep in mind photos and specimens will help with identification and even the knowledge that you have of where you've seen things, that knowledge can be very helpful. And most of all, recognize the value of pest control because it is traditionally an undervalued service, but it is a required one. It's necessary. So you get what you pay for. Keep that in mind. Don't go for the lowest bidder. And with that, yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you, Jody. That was really great. I really liked your approach of looking at both sides of the agreement, that you're considering the red flags that a company might have, but also the being a good customer part, because I too have heard a lot of situations where the customer isn't present or people have been bit by dogs. So those are all good points that you
Oh,
bring
yeah.
up.
Yeah,
So thank you so much. I think this will really help people make more informed decisions when they are seeking pest control.
great.
So at this time, we'll transition to our IPM Minute, and this takes a quick look at a timely topic and provides some action items you can take. For this segment, I'd like to introduce Joellen Lampman, and Joellen is an extension support specialist with the community IPM team, where she covers IPM for schools and turfgrass settings. And it is March, and the weather outside is still frightful, but tick season never really goes away. So Joellen is here to help us choose a tick repellent for if and when we choose to venture outside. So thank you, Joellen.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. I am always happy to talk ticks and to increase your confidence that you can go outside and enjoy our beautiful state while also protecting yourself from ticks. So first, I just want to remind you about the risk of getting bit by a tick. This is information available on our website. And just showing that the different ticks in New York are all going to be carrying or can be carrying different diseases, or you can have reactions to their saliva. So you don't want to get bit. At the same time that people are also concerned about putting a chemical on their skin. So this is the risking that we are balancing. And those risks can lead to symptoms like aches and pains and fatigue and hives and complications that range from numbness to death. So you really, really don't want to get bit by a tick. And we can reduce our risk of getting bit by a tick by using multiple strategies. And I really like the Swiss cheese model because it shows that there's no one thing that you can do that's going to protect you all the time. The more that you do, the better protected you're going to be. But today we're going to talk about specifically the one tool in your toolbox, repellents, that you can add. So just a reminder of how ticks hunt. They do what we call questing. So they're grabbing onto vegetation with their back legs, and their front legs are waving in the air. And this is where their sense organs are. And they're trying to sense carbon dioxide, heat, and what I affectionately call feet smell. And when they sense those things, they get ready to grab on to whatever brushes by. Repellents are going to interfere with that sense organ so that if you brush by, they're less likely to be ready to grab onto you. So looking for products. The EPA has this nifty tool to help you find the right repellent for your particular situation. It was last updated in 2019, so there are likely new products that aren't on there, or others that have been discontinued. But I think it's really useful to have this discussion on what to think about when you're deciding which product to actually purchase. So I filtered specifically for ticks, and I got 630 products that came up. 33 were not registered for ticks at all, so there is a little bit of a glitch in the matrix. But in my opinion, 168 has incredibly valuable information, which is letting you know the amount of time that that product is expected to work against ticks. So I took those 630 products and I created a breakdown of the information. So by far, most of the products have DEET in them, 496. 414 of those did not have that hourly protection time. So we're just going to not really think about those. We're going to focus on the ones that do have that vital information. And you can see that out of those products, each one can range from 2 hours of protection to 10 hours of protection, with the average being about 5 hours. Now, that's really important information, because if you're trying to protect your child that's off to school, if you put the repellent on right before they get on the bus, that's not going to last until lunchtime if it only lasts for 2 hours. So you're going to want to choose a product that's going to last for a longer period of time. If, on the other hand, you're yourself, you're going to be hiking and you can reapply it every 2 hours, that might just be fine. So you're not extending the amount of time that you have that protection on you for longer than you need it. Picaridin fares a little bit better. Their hourly protection times are longer, 5 to 14 hours with 9 on average. So that's good enough for a child, for example, to get on the bus and last them through soccer practice as well. This website also gives you information about the active ingredient. And again, these are wildly different. You can have the same company that has multiple products with DEET in it. And some might have 5% up to 98% of what's in that bottle being the active ingredient of DEET. So these are things that you want to take into account. So let's look at DEET a little bit more carefully. The CDC recommends percentages of between 20% and 50% of the DEET in the bottle. Half of the products in the database was not within that range. 43 had more than 40%, 50% active ingredient, where 32 had 90% or higher DEET within them. So pro tip, when you go to buy your product, bring a magnifying glass with you to the store, because the labels on these bottles, the text is tiny and you're going to need it to find both the hourly protection time and the percentage of the active ingredient. And the more active ingredient there is, the more likely that there might be a reaction to it. A great resource for all things pesticide is the National Pesticide Information Center, and they provide this handy chart of possible risks of repellents. And most were low or very low, except for some eye irritation, especially with oil of lemon eucalyptus. So following the instructions are going to reduce these risks even more, which brings us back to the label. What's important to you? Every label has precautionary statements like don't use it over cuts or wounds or sunburns. Do not get it into your eyes. You want to wash your hands. How are these things going to impact what product you're going to buy? Along with the precautionary statements, there are directions for use. All of them are going to tell you not to use it under clothing. You're only going to use it on exposed skin. Others are going to tell you not to use it near synthetic fabrics or plastics or varnished surfaces. Think about where you're going to be using the product and whether or not you need to be cautious about those types of things. And then they're also going to have information specifically on protecting children. All of these products are going to have keep out of reach of children, so do not hand it to your kid or let them spray it on themselves. They're going to provide the instructions on how you are going to apply the product to your child. Some of them are going to tell you do not use on infants. This is really good information to have before you put it into your shopping cart. And don't forget your pets. If you have dogs, you are 3 times more likely to get Lyme disease. So work with your veterinarian to have them protected with different products to protect both them and yourself and your family. So what about essential oils? People ask about this. It's just this assumption that because they're natural, they're safe. These charts come out of a 2024 study that shows that the length of time these essential oils work is incredibly short. So if we look at the risks of the EPA approved products compared to the effectiveness of the essential oils, and we also think about the risks brought on by the tick bites themselves, we do not consider it worth the low efficacy of the minimum use products, and we recommend that you stick to those EPA labeled products. So wrapping it up, absolutely have repellents be part of your toolkit, but also surround it with other tick strategies. And you can find more information about repellents and those other strategies on our website, don'tgettickedny.org. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Joellen. I think that we don't often hear about the hourly protection time, and I think that's a super important consideration for people to keep in mind. So thank you for sharing that and the database to help people find a product that works for them. So we want to thank both our speakers today, Jody and Joellen, for their presentations. We hope that you join us on a future First Friday event. Our session in April will be occurring on World Rat Day, and we'll be talking all about rats. So we hope you join us then. Thank you and have a great weekend.